get down to business? Join seasoned entrepreneur, community leader, and Army veteran Scott Shalom Klein, who will take you behind the scenes with those who work in America's small business scene and speak with leaders making an impact, creating jobs, and telling their story in entrepreneurship. So let's get down to business. On AM 560, The Answer, here's your host, Shalom Klein.
And indeed, we're all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship in business. We talk a lot about business here on with Get Down to Business, and I'm your host, Shalom Klein. Remember, you can always download podcasts on my website at syklein.com. And while you're there, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Shalom Klein. It's going to be a jam-packed week of content and information you will not want to miss. So let's jump right in. I'm super excited for this conversation with one and only Barbie Brewer, who is the author of Live and Let Lead. She began her career in Silicon Valley during the dot-com boom of the 90s and is now an industry-leading expert in developing critical areas of modern business performance and culture, including remote and hybrid workforces, which we're going to talk a lot about. As Chief Culture Officer at GitLab, Brewer contributed to the all-remote software as a service company's growth from 150 employees to, listen to this, over 1,000 in more than 60 countries. And, pretty cool, she was Vice President of Talent for Netflix, where the streaming service expanded from 20 million subscribers to over 150 million. And I know that so many of you listeners, between the GitLab and the Netflix, you've been the recipient of Barbie's amazing work. But I'm really excited to have this conversation about remote work, which many people think of as a reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic. But now it's become part of, as we say, the new reality. Barbie Brewer, welcome to the program.
Hi, great to be here.
It's great to have you. So I'm curious, you wrote this amazing book, which is called Live and Let Lead. And I'm curious, what was it that motivated you to write that book?
Well, really, I think it came down to my own personal needs in life, if I'm going to be honest with you. I love to work and I love practicing my craft, but I had a pretty nasty little health diagnosis, and I was at Netflix, and I was also going through a divorce at the same time. So something had to give. I was going to become a single mom every other week and start chemo, which ended up for a year. And so I started writing letters to my kids because my initial diagnosis wasn't very optimistic. And it was for each phase of their life that I wouldn't be there for. And that's really what drove me then to turn that into writing a book to help other people and leaders grow their careers. So luckily I switched doctors, I'm super healthy. Everything's in the clear now. And so I was able to translate that desire to write, which I didn't know I had until I started writing those letters, into a book that might help one or two people.
That's helping a lot of people, which is great. Again, I'm chatting with the one and only Barbie Brewer. Barbie, it's really impressive what you've overcome on the personal side, but you've certainly accomplished a lot in your professional career, and we're grateful for that. So we've got a lot of folks that tune into the program that, of course, are advanced in their businesses, either entrepreneurs themselves or in senior positions. But I'm really, really curious to get your advice for those that are early in their career. Barbie, what would you say to them?
For those earlier in their career, I would say to look at every challenge as an opportunity. I know that feels like something that's oversaid, but try not to say no too much. Try not to question yourself too much. If someone believes that you can do something, they might see something in you that you didn't see in yourself. So give it a go. Give it a try. Surround yourself with mentors and experts that can help you grow. But never be afraid to try something new, and never be afraid to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And that's such important advice, having that confidence and there's a lot of folks that need that little sort of vote of approval. And, especially in larger companies, there's folks hopefully that are looking out and hoping to develop you as well. And I think you've certainly had that in your own career. So speaking of that sort of healthy company culture, that's something you read a lot about in your book, and I know that you speak about frequently. What's the recipe, if you will? How does a company, even a small company, developing entrepreneurial venture, establish that climate and that culture that hopefully would be positioned for success in the future?
Yeah, so I think that there is no one ideal company culture, but I think what's most important is to have one, and to know what your values are and to know what your culture is, so that you can be transparent about that, so that you're attracting the people that will thrive in your environment, and that your employees are actually enjoying their experience with you as an employer because they got what they thought they were going to get. But let's be honest, different products can tolerate different cultures. And, Netflix, for example, I love their culture of freedom and responsibility and to not have too many rules and not have too much process. I don't know that I want that to be the case with the person who makes my car. I think for them, I want to make sure my brakes work, and I want to have some rules and regulations around that, right? So it does vary, but I think what it gets down to is respecting all employees and transparency, and as leaders, really making sure that you're open to the idea that you could be wrong, but still hold the confidence to motivate and inspire your team. It's
Yep.
a balance, and it's knowing who you are. And as the great leaders before me said, your culture will be defined by the worst leadership traits that you expose is true. So your leaders need to, talk the talk and walk the walk.
I just came off a call literally minutes ago and talking about the importance of people being the number one priority. And really, regardless,
Mhm.
as my dad would always say, it's all widgets. Ultimately, whether it's, software as a service or you're talking about Netflix, the reality is that people make up the organization. And
Yep.
one of the things that I know you speak about so passionately and so frequently is that, remote work might have been that reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic, but in reality, what it has done in having remote work, it's eliminated geography and some hiring decisions, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of benefits to companies, but I know you argue that there's a lot of benefits to society as a whole. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that?
Well, let's be honest here. Not all the brilliant people were born in on the coasts of U.S., right? There's brilliant talent and brilliant people throughout this world, but there's not amazing opportunity. So what remote work enables us to do is democratize opportunity. So it's one thing to redistribute wealth, and that only goes so far. But giving people purpose and opportunity is what really will change the world. Now, you can also talk about the environment. I know during COVID, the trees got greener along the highways in the Silicon Valley. And now that people are going back to work, you see them not looking so green anymore. But really, from a society makeup, you keep the role models in those communities, you keep the taxpayers in those communities, you have the workers in those communities actually visiting the salons and the restaurants and the service providers in their neighborhoods instead of where their company sits. It builds stronger communities. The folks, the kids in a small U.S. town or a small country will see so much more opportunity in careers than they had ever seen before on take your parents to work day. I can't impress enough on the diversity, what it does for functionally diverse folks, and what it does for the world to bring the whole world up with democratizing the opportunity. And I have
Yeah.
so many examples of amazing people that worked for me that probably would not have had an opportunity if it wasn't for GitLab. And GitLab's remote workforce was not a response to COVID. GitLab purposely built an all remote company when they didn't have to. And that's, I think, the problem with remote work during COVID is companies built their programs and policies in a way to survive the pandemic, not a way to thrive and innovate a new way of work.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I know that you've certainly been at the lead in developing this. Not like you said as a response, but actually proactively, and the results speak for themselves. I'm chatting with the author of Live and Let Lead, which is leadership lessons for the future of work. Chatting with Barbie Brewer. Barbie, we are just about out of time, and I just want to wrap up in the last minute by asking you, what do the best leaders that you know have in common?
The best leaders that I know have in common is a confidence to innovate and try new things and take chances, is a vulnerability to be able to express their vulnerabilities, but also be open to feedback and to not try to pretend they're perfect. And then transparency, the willingness to share information, to hire great people and empower them is how their leadership will scale, right? By hiring amazing leaders in every level of the company. And I think that's what really great leaders know how to do and understand the importance of.
Absolutely. Barbie, I love the conversation. I love the book and what you're advocating for, which truly is the future of work. So I want to make sure our listeners have the opportunity to get in touch with you as well as, of course, pick up a copy of this book. How can they do that?
Well, you can get a copy of the book on Amazon, of course, Lead and Let Live. And I also have a website, barbiejane.com. Barbie is my real name. It's not short for Barbara. So the website's barbiejane.com. And the book is also available there, as well as information on how to reach me.
That's fantastic, Barbie Brewer. Really appreciate you coming on the program. Really appreciate you talking about the future of work and talking about remote work, which is absolutely critical and something that, again, businesses big and small need to understand and know a lot more about. Well, we're going to have to squeeze in a very quick break here on the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. Always get on my website, syklein.com. While you're on the web, be sure to visit healthplanchicago.com, where you can get in touch with our sponsor, Tom Arabali, for all of your health insurance and Affordable Care Act needs. Again, a quick break. Chicago, don't touch that dial. Be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share on your favorite podcast app. We'll be right back.